So today we're going to talk about Handel's Sarabande. The Sarabande is a dance movement in 3/4. It's usually combined with other dances to form what's called a dance suite, S-U-I-T-E. The most famous of these would be the Cello Suites by J.S. Bach. Today we're going to be tackling two different things when it comes to the bassoon and how to approach this particular piece. The first is this idea of the phrase. The phrase is uniquely divided, and we're going to have to talk about that so we can kind of wrap our heads around it. The second is the fact that this entire piece sits at the top of our staff and it goes a little bit above it. And there's some tricks and tools you're going to want to be aware of to keep this area sounding clean as well as in tune all the way through. All right, so the first we're going to talk about is our theme and our phrase. So this theme is very tuneful and memorable. You can hear it once or twice and be able to sing it back. However, the way that it's written is kind of unique. It's divided into a unique number of measures. What you would think might be the end of the original phrase is after 5 measures, but then a little tag happens, and then it ends actually at 9 measures. Now that 9 measure marking is a little unique because normally around this time, if we're starting to think about tuneful melodies, they would be evenly divided. So it's a little bit unpredictable. So I'm going to play for you that now. And then it repeats the exact same thing again, just a little bit louder. Then the next part, which is kind of the second melody that comes around, that actually continues going for, I would say, be 12 measures. So we finally got our even, but it's quite long. So that's the second thing you have to think about is, okay, now we're on to the second part at 19, but I have to keep playing as if it hasn't ended yet. And the way we do that is to continue keeping the energy going and the excitement in our airstream. So it sounds something like this. You can almost hear it chunked into little bits. Da, 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 da. That's a little bit. And then we get that kind of theme again. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. And then this little tag, and a tag at the end. So this building upon it kind of makes it feel like, wait, are we done? Wait, are we done now? Oh, now? So we have to really be sure, first of all, for ourselves when we're playing this. And then the second part is to portray it. So the best way I can say is to kind of go for the longer notes. We're lucky in the sense that at the end of these phrases, we have a dotted half note to kind of really say, and last note of the measure, and last note of the phrase. So lean into that and go for that. The other thing that really helps us is that this entire idea then repeats yet again. So this repetition will help us kind of confirm that our idea is correct, our phrase is correct, even though they're kind of on the longer side and a little awkwardly disproportioned. Luckily, after you learn that, everything else pretty much repeats the same, just maybe up or down a little bit in intervals. So the second thing, in addition to the phrasing, is this idea of we are on this upper register, not the high register, just the top of the clef and into our tenor range. And that's an area that can get a little gritty sounding and can also be a chop buster, so to speak. So let me talk about the gritty part first. So as we know, with G's in the clef at the top, we have to have half holes. If we don't have a sizable half hole, we end up cracking the note. So that's one thing that can make it sound gritty, is our G's may don't have a big enough or too big of a half hole and it comes out growling like this. Any of those. The other part is our B flats and our A's. We have now taken our whisper key off And in these particular notes, we often have a cracking sound as well. So that it kind of has this little bit of a delayed start, or maybe not as clean. So sometimes it comes out as I'm purposely doing a little bit more awkwardly. So what we end up doing is a special technique called flicking or venting, which is something I will talk about in another video that you'll see on my page. But I will highlight that this is the area that you want to flick or vent. So it comes out more. In addition to those potentially gritty notes, the half hole on the G and then the A and the B flat needing flicking or venting, this area is an area that we have to keep our firm corners. Because when we get to the C and then maybe the D and then the E above that, that's an area that if we don't have nice firm corners in addition to a strong airstream, we will end up going a little flat. It'll sound something like this. I'll do the second phrase. I was so loose that I actually hit a different note before the C sharp clicked in. Versus with firm corners. Now, because this entire piece hovers within that range, having constant firm corners basically means that you're going to get tired. It's going to wear you out. So even though the rhythms may become quite simple to read and you may get the fingerings down and then you're like, yeah, this is great, I can play this, that's fantastic. But you want to make sure you play it running all the way through a bunch of times. Because if you don't, what might have happening is during an audition or during a lesson when your teacher asks you, you may not get all the way through because your embouchure hasn't built up the strength. It's like going to the gym and working out. You need to go and work out a little bit to get nice firm corners. So definitely practice this. Practice it in chunks and then practice all the way through to see how long you can last with nice firm corners with a tuner on so that you know that you're not going too flat. The last thing we're going to throw in there is if you do play this all the way through, or when you play this all the way through, there's 2 points when there's a lot of measures rest. One is 5 measures and one is 12. If you want to give yourself a little bit of time, absolutely take it, but you do not need to count all those measures out, especially in the middle of a jury or an audition, because they'll be sitting there waiting for you to keep going and they may not have counted and then there may just be an awkward pause. So feel free to take that time that you need, but then you need to get back in. Recommended that whatever you do, keep a pulse in your head so you're still going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you come back in on 1 and don't startle them by coming back in on a different beat. All right, so that's Handel's Sarabande. We talked about the odd phrase markings and how it's distributed. So make sure that you are interpreting the phrase appropriately and making it sound like it's still going and that it sounds like it's supposed to. And then the other bit is to keep our corners nice and firm right here so that everything above the top of the staff is in tune, while you're also paying attention to make sure all those gritty notes become nice and clean. All right, go practice.